Hello everybody and welcome back to Redline Magazine, and today we're reviewing the Alfa Romeo Stelvio. Now SUVs are very much the in thing at the moment. There's plenty of them on the road. There's offerings from Jaguar Land Rover, from the Germans, so BMW, Mercedes, Audi, but rare is the day that you see anything really Italian in this segment on the road. So we thought we'd get the Alfa Romeo Stelvio on test to see what it's like. So we've been living with it for the last week. Let's review it. Now before we get deep into the review, if you like anything you see here today, please do subscribe to our channel. And if you would like to read Redline Magazine, then what I've done is I've left a link to our website in the comments section below, so you can go down there. We've got print copies, we've got digital copies available, so please do go and have a look at your leisure. Right, now let's talk about this rather dirty Alfa Romeo. Even with a considerable layer of filth, it's easy to tell that some passion has gone into the design of this car. The Italians, not content with just making another SUV, have clearly worked hard to differentiate the Stelvio in what is a crowded marketplace. To my eye, it looks as elegant as an SUV can, and when it comes to the driving, Alfa Romeo have gone some way to ensure that there's substance to back up the style. So with 280 horsepower, you'd like to think this Alfa Romeo Stelvio is quite sporty to drive, and you know what? It is. So we've got this DNA section down here where you can adjust the different settings for the car. So we're currently in A, which is auto efficiency, and then you can toggle up to normal, or natural as they call it, and then you've got D for dynamic. Now this also comes with the performance pack, so you get these lovely aluminium paddles, you've got a limited slip differential, and you have a bumpy road mode button like you get in a Ferrari, which is quite cool. So we're now in dynamic, so we've got the sharper throttle response, weightier steering, so on and so forth, but we've put it back into the softer damper, so it should be nice and compliant over a country road while retaining its sporty character. And you know what, when you put everything into D, just everything sharpens up quite nicely. It turns in quite well, gear shifts quicken up, and yeah, because we're in the bumpy road mode setting, it doesn't actually feel harsh across the ground. Let's turn it back into its standard setting. So we're now in dynamic without the bumpy road mode button, and actually the ride quality is still quite good, and it just generally feels quite sporty to drive. There's not a huge amount of roll in the chassis. I wouldn't say the car communicates with you in any real way, but you do know where the front wheels are, which is always a good thing. And actually, if you want to have a little bit of fun behind the wheel, it's more than capable of providing you with that. Now obviously this is a family SUV, so it also needs to be comfortable. Now unfortunately I spent quite a lot of time stuck on the M25 this week. I'm not going to lie, I was bumper to bumper for some 6.5 hours actually, and as inconvenient as it was, it actually gave me a really good opportunity to test what this car is like when you spend quite a lot of time in it. And well, there's good news. The MVH levels are low. This seat is super comfy and super supportive. Not once did I get any backache whatsoever, and it's really well bolstered around the edges, so it really is very comfortable. And yeah, it's just quite a nice, comfortable place to spend some time. You could do a long journey in it, no problem at all, which is really something you'd expect from a car like this. But even still, you know, you get into some comfy cars, and when you spend an excessive amount of time behind the wheel, you do get a bit of backache and you get a bit stiff. But no, this was very nice actually, so it gets top marks for that. Right, I'm going to talk about some things that I don't necessarily like about this Alfa Romeo Stelvio. There are a few annoyances. The first one is the fuel economy. I've been averaging 29 miles to the gallon at best, okay, and for a car with 280 horsepower and a 0 to 62 time of 5.7 seconds, it just ain't good enough anymore. So my advice would be go for one of the smaller engines if you care about how much fuel you're putting in it. Secondly, next of all, and yeah, this I find very annoying. When you unlock the car, it makes this noise. And when you lock the car, it makes this noise. Yeah, see how that gets a little bit annoying? Next of all on the list, and speaking of noises, or in this case the lack of noise, it's got 280 horsepower, it's supposed to be sporty, but pop it back into dynamic for the moment. I don't actually think it sounds that good. It's just a bit flat, isn't it? I mean, yeah, not so sure about that. Let's see what else we got. This interior, I mean, look, it's well made, there's some nice materials, but it's just a little bit bland, if I'm going to be honest. There are other colour options for the interior, but if you do spec the black, it's just a bit on the dull side. And finally, how you operate the infotainment, I really don't like it. So there's no touch screen connectivity or anything like that. You do everything using this click wheel here, and it's just a really dated way of operating the nav. And when you're trying to input an address, for example, it just makes the whole process a lot longer than it actually needs to be. So yeah, there we go, a few things which I find annoying about the Alfa Romeo Stelvio. Yeah, and I think when Alfa work on the replacement for this car, it's something that they should definitely take a look at. But I promise that I'm done ranting. I'm done ranting. We can move on.
I promised I wouldn't rant any longer, so what I'm going to do is pick out some of the highlights from the Stelvio's cabin. The driving position is relatively low for that of an SUV, which helps you feel in sync with your vehicle when you're going for a spirited drive. There are some quality soft touch materials around the cabin, and the leather is well trimmed. It's also a big thumbs up for the aluminium paddles that come with the performance pack, and the standard hi-fi is clear with plenty of bass. The Stelvio also does well when it comes to build quality, and there's more than enough room for the entire family and their belongings. Prices for the Alfa Romeo Stelvio start from £37,745, with a wide selection of trims and engines, and there's even a rear-wheel drive car, although most models are available with all-wheel drive and an 8-speed automatic gearbox. Finally, if you want big performance, then the Stelvio is also available in fire-breathing Quadrifoglio spec, which comes with over 500 brake horsepower, but that's for another review.
The question begs, should you spend your hard-earned on one of these Alfa Romeo Stelvios? The answer to that is yes, and I'll explain why in a minute, but first of all I want to discuss this car's biggest problem, and that problem is how well the competition are putting out cars like this. The SUV segment is very hotly contested, and the Germans are bang on the money, and the Jaguar Land Rover products are also very, very good. And so it becomes a lot more difficult for a manufacturer like Alfa Romeo to come into the fold and steal sales from these guys. But that's not a reason why you shouldn't buy this. No, the reason you should buy one of these is because, actually, in a weird way, I think it's an SUV for the Petrolheads. And I'll explain why. As we've already established, it drives really well, it handles very nicely indeed, and actually when you stop to look at the car, real attention has been paid to the way that it looks. Where a lot of these SUVs at the moment are either understated or they've got some sharp lines, or in the case of BMW they have massive grills, this thing's quite elegant to look at. It's a very nice looking car, and it's just been designed and built with a little bit of passion, and you wouldn't expect anything less from the Italians, would you? So there we go, that's my verdict. Sure, you can go out, you can buy an SUV which has better tech, a better interior. All of that's a bit boring really, isn't it? No, if you're a petrolhead, what you want is a family SUV that handles well and looks great. And if that's what you're into, I think the Alfa Romeo does it for you.